We filled a couple, but there's still a few HBCU jobs left vacant. Let's rank them in terms of attractiveness. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Episode is brought to you by, damn it. We filled a couple of them, but there's still a few HBCU jobs left vacant. So let's rank the remaining openings in terms of we filled a couple of them, but there's still a few HBCU jobs left vacant. So let's rank the remaining vacancies in terms of attractiveness. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, Sam Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey's over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. We'll wrap up today's episode with a look at the overall coaching landscape. That goes Michael Vick, the quickness and swiftness of some of the firings, what jobs that we will want. And with that segment, we'll have our good friend HBCU Nightly, Joshua Sims Sr. on the show to help us break that down. It went really well. I've done it already, so it went really well. But in segment 2, we're going to take a look at the Chennis Berry method and why I think that you're going to see more HBCUs on the FCS level be quick to grab up Division II coaches. But let's kick this thing off with 4 teams that could actually be looking at Division II coaches. There are still 4 HBCUs on the FCS level that do not have a coach. We walked into the offseason with 6, right? You had North Carolina A&T, who clearly quickly jumped on Sean Gibbs, and we'll talk about that in segment 2 because it kind of goes with the point, kind of doesn't because of different motivations. But you have Sean Gibbs in North Carolina A&T, and obviously the big news that dropped this week, Michael Vick to Norfolk State University. This is going to be interesting. But what also is interesting is who's going to be the Prairie View A&M coach? What about Mississippi Valley State? What about Delaware State? What about Alabama A&M? Which of these 4 universities would I go to if they all gave me an offer sheet? So let's go over some of my criteria before I break down the list. One thing that's big for me is job security. If I don't feel like I have the trust to build, then I'm not going to want to go there. At the end of the day, I need to know that my room or my margin for error is still pretty nice size. And not because I've never coached before, but because I'm coming in to revitalize a program. PV is probably the farthest from needing revitalization, but Mississippi Valley State needs it. Delaware State needs it. I would argue that Alabama A&M to a degree needs it. PV, they might just need a slight culture change. That might be all they're looking. That's all that they're looking for. But I need room. Guys, there's a reason that you're in this situation that you're in right now. So because of that, don't expect me to come in and wave a magic wand and fix it 4 games into my first season. I don't think that necessarily is fair, right? I need to know that my school will allow me the room to do that. My other things that I feel are important are location, opportunity, and past treatment kind of goes in with job security. But past treatment is big. The way that I look at how you treated past head coaches, I think sometimes when we enter relationships, we look at these red flags from previous relationships and we say, wouldn't happen to me. That wouldn't happen to me attitude. I don't know how often it works out for you guys. I don't know how often it works out for you. But I'll say it typically leads to people getting treated the same way they saw the last person get treated. So I wouldn't want to step into a situation like, oh, well, I'm different. Somebody's going to take the job, of course. It just may not be me. So let's start from the top and work our way down. Prairie View A&M is the job that I would select if I was a coaching candidate. And take the flag behind me out and everything of the sort. Josh and I joked about this at the end of the show, but the truth of the matter is you have resources and you have a beautiful region. And when you look at some of the things I'm looking at opportunity. That SWAC West is open. That SWAC West is open to me. I don't sit here and look at Southern as having a stranglehold on the division. I do not believe that at all. We've already seen the volatility within the SWAC anyway. But in that SWAC West, it's a whole different level. It's the reason we call it the Wild Wild West. It's not just for alliteration or for reference purposes. They really do embody that term. So I feel like the opportunity to make it to a SWAC championship game next year is on the table for me. I'm looking at location. There's not many locations you're going to get better than Texas. We can have an argument over who is the best football state. We can have that conversation. But if I'm stepping into the HBCU world, I want to be in Texas because first off, it's bigger than the rest of these states. So if we want to talk about who has the best talent, that can be a conversation, but who has the most of that talent, it's Texas, right? Then you also have, just going east, you have Louisiana right there. I can reach in and grab a few. I'm not going to belabor the point because I say these things with Josh, but I say that, still stick around. I know I've referenced a couple points that I made, but this is more so his show. I'm playing point guard in segment 3. But at the end of the day, if I can recruit Texas, I'm going to feel very confident about my abilities. I am. If I can go in and snatch a few from Louisiana, I'm going to feel real good. You got to understand, LSU approaches recruiting as dominate your state. That may be everybody's recruiting tactic, but some states are more effective at it than others. And Louisiana is small, but they have a lot of great talent. So I would definitely reach over and grab some guys from there. I would stick in the base of Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. It's all around. It's not hard. So yeah, PV, and they got money. So I'm feeling like resources are hard too. This is the job that I would take personally. Then you go Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M gave Connell Maynard a lot of rope. And I like that. Because it means that at the end of the day, I know he has success, but you gave him chance after chance. And there's been conversations about his future out there at Huntsville for a while. And that it never happened. He could have been gone after last year. You gave him an extra year. That would earn some goodwill with me. And I think it's a pretty good opportunity too. That is an athletic director that is trying to make a change. This is an athletic director that has big visions. And I know that if I step in with big visions, that he is now going to allow me the opportunity to enact every plan that I have that's going to lead to the further and the betterment of Alabama A&M. We're going to work hand in hand. I don't know everybody's leadership. And most leadership that I know is bad outside of Jackson State and Alabama A&M. Everything else pretty bad. I'm gonna be honest with you. But that I know, because the negativity seeps out. Now for the next two, and it's kind of a funny divide between the haves and the have-nots, but I'm going to go Delaware State. Them and Mississippi Valley State are very similar in the way that I approach them. I would argue the best part about segment 3 is Josh's breakdown of Mississippi Valley State versus Delaware State. So I'm going to keep this part a little slight. Delaware State should not have fired Lee Hole to me. You didn't give him time to really build. So are you going to give me time to build? Why would you have unrealistic expectations with him and not have them with me? Now, once again, there could be conversations that happen in the background that I wouldn't know until I get into that interview room. But as of right now, it looks like you fired a head coach who didn't have enough time to build. You have a rushed timeline. I don't work on rushed timeline. Go ask my girl. I move very slow. I walk slow. I may not talk slow, but I walk slow. I'm not rushing for nothing, okay? So timelines that are expedited beyond realistic expectations, Nah, keep them from me. Mississippi Valley State did the same thing, but the reason that they're last is they've always been bad to me, and they've been in front of my face and bad. Delaware State has been in my peripheral and bad, right? Like until I got to this show, I wasn't thinking about Delaware State on a consistent basis. I wasn't thinking about that when I was in undergrad, but I did think about playing Mississippi Valley State. So that frame of reference is important here. Mississippi Valley State feels so dead in the water to me. Low resources, no history. Let me not say no history. No recent history of success. That's concerning to me. I would not want to be there. Y'all know, come on. You've been here long enough. You know exactly how I feel about Mississippi Valley State. So I don't think it's a surprise that they came in at last. I really don't. Yeah, that's really what it is. Past history. I don't think the opportunity is high. I got to compete with Jackson State in the state. Overall, it's just nah. That's not for me. That's the last job I'd pick. So it goes PV, Alabama A&M. Then it goes a bit of a gap. Delaware State, Jackson, or not Jackson State. That'd be number one. But Delaware State, then Mississippi Valley State. So that is my list of attractiveness on these jobs, and we'll continue this conversation as the offseason goes on. But right now, I think you're going to see more HBCUs approach with the Chennis Berry method, and I'll explain what that is and why I think they'll continue with it as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. And did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions. I didn't even realize I was still paying for it. I mean, I haven't used this in 3-4 years, and I'm still making payments on that. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. We all want that. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's your subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when you use the app's premium features. For me, the subscription tracker is the best because I don't want to be paying for something that I don't use. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Now, if you're ready to have a little bit of fun, you want to switch things up, I actually got a Game Time notification this weekend that the Clippers and Mavericks, I believe it is, on Saturday, those tickets just dropped 31%. They don't want you to just open the app and see what's there. They want to let you know, hey, these are opportunities that you may not have thought about, but look at how much that they could cost you. Not very much to go to a Clippers game versus the Mavs. I love those matchups personally. I have a friend of mine who's a Clipper fan. These are the opportunities that you get when you go to Game Time. Not to mention they already have the lowest ticket prices. They have prices that are available up to an hour after tip-off, kickoff, whatever the start of the event is, right? Whatever they call it in the sport, or ballet, theater, comedy show, concert, everything. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, use the code Locked On College, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, use the code Locked On College, and get $20 off your first purchase. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Spencer McLaughlin on Locked On College Football to make sure everything you need to know for the college football playoffs is in your memory bank because it starts today. Matter of fact, it's probably on right now. As we're talking, it's probably on right now. Wait till I'm done, though. All right. But guys, the Chennis Berry method is simple. It's simple. Grab a D2 coach quickly. I'm not saying that that's the route you should go, but I think we're going to see more HBCUs do it. And I think it's going to have a varying degree of success, as all coaching hires will do. Do I think that this method is going to become as popular as going to get a former NFL player and make him your head coach? No, because there is a tangible impact that comes with getting somebody like a Michael Vick, like a Eddie George, like a Deion Sanders. And that's notoriety. That's That's things that are outside of the game of football on the field. So I think that it's recruiting. Those are recruiting things. Getting the Division II coach who's had a strong 2-3 years on the D2 ranks does not help you with recruiting. That person being who that person is may help you with recruiting, but simply saying, hey, we got Chennis Berry, 2-time SIAC champion, that's not going to boost your recruiting because he's not a household name until he steps into the household. So it's a completely different situation. But the reason I think we'll see it is because look at the immediate success that Chennis Berry had. And I'm aware there have been past Division II coaches who have come up to the ranks. This is not something that I'm unaware of. So please don't make me think, or please don't let me make you think that I believe that Chennis Berry is some sort of anomaly or that he's a first timer. I don't believe that at all. But what I will say is, in my experience, it's taken more than 3 years. It's taken more than 2 great years for them to come up to the FCS ranks. That's what I've seen. And my main point of reference is Damon Wilson. Damon Wilson was dominating at Bowie State for a long time before he came up. Could have been by choice, could have been by certain offers. I don't know. I'm not in that man's pockets. But what I can say is that Chennis Berry got his job after 3 years. The first one was solid. It was a good turnaround. Year 2 and 3, he dominated. 2 SIAC championships, and now you're in the MEAC. I believe that seeing the way that he came up from D2 and brought a lot of his players, and then they dominated on the FCS level, the conversation will shift to, well, a good coach is just a good coach. And I don't need you to prove for 5 to 7 years before I bring you up. That's not necessary, right? Like you look at Willie Simmons. Willie Simmons just made it to FIU, and he had to make a pit stop in Duke. We're talking on the FBS level now. But when you look at what he did on the FCS level as a head coach, he did it at PV. He came in and he did it at FAMU. That was a good amount of time in which he was performing at a high level. Was he dominant in the same way that Chennis Berry was at Benedict? No, but I would say that he was coaching at a high level, and he could have got that call 2 years earlier, but it took a long time. That typically happens when you're jumping up a subdivision. We're seeing something similar with Sean Gibbs at North Carolina A&T, though the motivations are different. He's connected to that university in a different capacity. They may have asked for him if he was still a positional coach, if he was a offensive coordinator somewhere. They may have still asked for Sean Gibbs. So I don't know if it's exactly the same, but still, you have a coach who was at Fort Valley State last year. Now he's moving his way up, and who knows how many guys follow him. How many of his Wildcats follow his lead to become an Aggie? I thought that Kelvin Durham was going to do it, but he ends up committing to Johnson C. Smith. So I seen that right before I came on. That happened Thursday afternoon. To me, there's a guy who is the most obvious candidate to see if he can be the next Chennis Berry, and that's Teddy Keaton. I saw what he did going from Allen to Clark. Clark ain't been good in how long? Then he goes to Clark and he brings a bunch of his Allen guys over, and bada boom, bada bing, all of a sudden you in the SIAC championship. All of a sudden you have the most exciting offense in the conference. This is a quick turnaround that could make him attractive to other coaching vacancies. So I think that Teddy Keaton, and he got a quarterback who still has eligibility. And you may say, I want to see him on the D2 ranks. I mean, on the FCS ranks. You may say that. You're not making that, for the record, you're not making that call towards Keaton to get right. But I'm just saying, you may make that call to right. You may make that call to Keaton and understand that right is on the way with him. He followed him from Allen to Clark. I think he'd follow him from Clark to PV. I'm just throwing it out there. If we're talking about resources, we're talking about. All right, this is not me saying I heard anything, but it wouldn't be something that shocked me. It wouldn't be something that shocked me if he thought I could go to the state of Texas and I could recruit and I could pull and I could have people who allows Prairie View to get right back on the mountaintop after just a year off the mountaintop. But let's get into this conversation with HBCU Nightly. Woo! I ain't gonna lie to you. This was a good one, and I ain't gonna even preview it or tease it any longer. Let's get into it as we continue with Locked On HBCU. It's that time of the year. It's the college football playoff. And listen, it's back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying action that you love. I already know how it is because I love it too. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st. That's tomorrow, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. As wrapping up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. As you can see on the video side, the screen is now split in half. And I got my brother, Joshua Sims, Senior, HBCU Nightly, here to break down the coaching landscape because we have a lot. There's a lot going on. And we didn't think that we'd be talking about Michael Vick to Norfolk State when we first set this up. But here we are. How are you feeling about the addition of Michael Vick, not only to Norfolk State, but also to your conference?
Yeah, man, I'm elated. First off, D, man, thanks for having me on the show as always, brother. This is always a delight to be here on Locked on HBCU. Listen, man, Michael Vick to the MEAC is without a shadow of a doubt a delight here in MEAC country. I'm in North Carolina. Everybody knows I'm in North Carolina. This is MEAC country. And so here, having an additional brand like that, man, and I'll talk a little bit more about the business component of it once we get back to the show. But for me, seeing a person with that type of pedigree who understands this game to the magnitude and level that he understands the game, I'm excited about having him inside of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. It's obviously like any other hiring. It's going to depend on who he has into his staff, who's the guys and the support team that he'll surround himself with in Norfolk. But the reality is, man, the Norfolk State Spartans, the Legion, have everything in the world to be excited about. I'm excited for them. I look forward to welcoming him to the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference when he gets on the road and it has to come down to 1801 Fayetteville Street. But outside of that, man, this could not be an even better opportunity for Michael Vick. Now, Coach Vick, I wonder how soon he's going to really embolden himself in being called Coach Vick, man. That is something that, as a guy who coached, to get the honor and the privilege of people calling you coach and then putting your last name on there. So it's something that absolutely changes everybody, man. So I look forward to Coach Vick joining the MEAC, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to put together. But I'm even more excited about seeing what he puts together on that staff, man. I know he's going to try to put a fence around the 757. If you ain't already got pipelines into the 757 programs, you ain't going to get one in there now. No. It's pretty much over with. All right. And it's going to be 757 versus everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks, man. So salute to Coach Vick. Salute to Norfolk State University, man. Shout out to the Spartan faithful. Yeah, man, behold the green and gold. Wow. Look at that. Wow.
Hey, you said something in there that I thought was interesting. You spoke about how he has to form this staff. And I think that's the one reason I kind of stay away from guessing what year one would look like. He don't have a staff yet. And it's already a huge guess with someone who doesn't have any coaching experience. But with no staff either, I can't tell you if I think the defensive line is going to be strong or if I think it's going to be the wide receiver or whatever it is. So I think that was a really good point you made. I'll tell you what, Michael Vick is for sure going to have a longer leash than 2 years. Meanwhile, we've had a couple of coaches who haven't had that leash. You've seen North Carolina A&T, Delaware State, Mississippi Valley State. Am I missing any other ones that got fired after 2 years? I think that's all.
I think that's it. In this round, yeah, those were the 3 that got let go.
Is that too soon? If you're looking at it, like how much time do you really give a coach to come up with something?
Yeah, I think it ultimately boils down to the situation. I think all 3 of those situations were unique. And they're very, very different from each other. If you're looking at Delaware State, I think that that's too soon. That was a too soon to call there. I know there was some frustration among the alum, but that situation at Delaware State is delicate. right? You're talking about a program that's only won one conference championship in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference in football in this entire century. You got to be a little bit more understanding about the dynamics that exist there. Now, I don't know the back behind the scenes information as far as for satisfaction through recruiting, building relationships with possible alum. If people felt like he had the business acumen to really go out and go build the financial component of coaching, because coaching now is so much more than the X's and O's. And I had an old mentor who used to tell me, if you want to stop coaching, become a head coach. Because you got to do all the other stuff. You got to go do the financial reports. You got to look at your P&Ls. You need to go build relationships. And then now, in a world where you have general managers in programs, I'm looking forward to the opportunity. Saw Morehouse do it. They just announced that they're bringing in a general manager. I'm looking forward to seeing some of our Division I HBCUs start making some hires for general manager. Start off low. You may not be able to pay a whole lot. Start off with a stipend, with an alum who may have some resources of their own. They might have a full-time job on their own. They can come in and get it done. When you look at Delaware State situation, 2 years was just a little too quick for a championship caliber head football coach like Lee Holt. But then again, I don't know the dynamics. I don't know all of the other things, the 90% stuff that head coaches have to deal with navigating NIL and navigating the relationships with the community and with the alum. If you look down at Valley, I think that might have been right on time. And my personal thoughts might have been that, there may be some connection between why they pulled that trigger and another person end up removing themselves from the job. I won't speculate because we won't know here. We haven't gotten an announcement yet on who the next head football coach will be down in Mississippi Valley. But I will say this, that is not an indictment on Coach Wade as to why I'm saying it was right on time.
Okay.
Coach, yeah, go ahead.
Please elaborate as much as you feel comfortable, because I've heard a lot of people put Valley in that same category that you just put Delaware State. So I would have thought you would have felt like it was too soon. So what can you say?
Yeah, I think the reason why is because that situation is unique, but for a completely different reason than Delaware State is unique, right? Mm-hmm. Valley needs a particular type of person to be the head football coach there.
Okay.
I would say that Valley, whether people know it or not, Valley has a pretty strong and rich history of coaches going into the college ranks, becoming coordinators and position coaches that played at Valley, that will understand the situation down in Mississippi Valley State even more. And when you think about that, I think about a guy like a Vincent Brown. I think about a guy like a Sam Washington. I think about these guys who, and I'm not putting Coach Washington in it. He's retired. He's enjoying retirement. I saw him at the last home Central game. He's enjoying retirement, spending the time with them babies, them grandbabies, and their family. But you need a person at Valley that just understands the Valley situation because they played there. And so that is unique where it is. Delaware State, not so much. They've not done as much as far as for putting guys into the coaching ranks. I guess a lot of their alum that guys have played there haven't really got into the coaching ranks. They have a situation down there where they have up at Delaware State that is relatively different than Valley. Valley can win some games. Valley is not in a situation where they can't. It's just everybody can't win. Everybody can't win. Somebody got to lose. Right. And so what the expectations are at Valley and what the expectations are at Delaware State, I think there's some unrealistic expectations. And when you look at a guy like Coach Wade, who I believe could build a program, I'm just not sure that Valley was the right place for him to build that program. And so I would rather them go ahead and sever that relationship, let Coach Wade go off and go do his thing, go find himself somewhere else where he can be able to build, which I firmly believe he's going to be a head football coach somewhere else soon enough. I just don't think that at the age that he is, with the place he is in his career, if that's the place he wants to become synonymous with himself in the career. I think Valley needs to go find an older coach that may have possibly been at Valley, that may have played at Valley or understands the dynamics at Valley, and is a guy that can be able to make it work. And then also, very similarly, there's a lot of turnover in the administration component, from athletic administration component at Valley, that plays a lot into it as well. And we all know that most ADs, when they come into a spot, when they come into a job, they also want to get their guy, right? They want to bring in their guy, in particular in their cash cow sport, which is football. So I think that there's some similarities, but I think the reason why you pull the trigger at one place versus another, I think the right profile of a guy to be the head football coach at Delaware State may be different than the right profile of a guy that needs to be the guy in Mississippi Valley. I think Dell State needs to go find somebody who's young, who's brash, who doesn't have any problem with getting on the road, who's going to add some veteran coaches around them as coordinators and position coaches. Where it is at Valley, I think they need to go get an older, seasoned head football coach, a guy who understands it, has been around the block, and understands how this thing needs to grow. And then he can surround himself with some younger coaches who have the ability to go off and go and build a recruiting base. So I just think different situations, similarities but different situations.
Okay, no, that's interesting. I'll ask you this, and I know profiles are gonna make a lot of things because I actually said the same thing about Norfolk. Now they got on me now. I'm from the South.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Norfolk guy,
Mm-hmm.
but they got on me. 757 said it's Norfolk. I'm practicing. All right, so I just want y'all to know I'm in my mirror at night saying it 5 times before I go to bed.
Yeah.
But if you had to go to a job on the D1 on the D1 FCS level for HBCUs, which job would you pick?
It will be without a shadow of a doubt. It'd be Prairie View A&M. You look at the resources that they have there. They're waiting for a guy with the right personality, right? Prairie View is a sleeping giant. I know that doesn't sound good because I know you're a Texas Southern guy, right? So I know that it is, but it's a sleeping giant, right? You look at those facilities and you look at where they are in the state of Texas, the hotbed of football, where football is a religion, right? And you just go 15 to 20 miles surrounding the school. And you talking about quite possibly the most talent-rich area in all of the United States as it pertains to football. 15 to 20-mile radius around that area. Then you go 30 minutes to an hour down the highway, 30 minutes to an hour up the highway, 30 minutes to an hour east of the highway, 30 minutes to an hour south of the highway, southwest of the highway. And you're talking about some of the best athletes. What you're going to need is you cannot take a traditional SWAC approach to that job. You can't go get the guy that doesn't want to leave his office, that doesn't have talking communication skills. You're going to have to go find the guy that understands the state of Texas, right?
Yeah.
That understands the state of Texas. They don't meet a stranger, be it an alum, be it a donor, be it a booster, be it a student athlete, be it a parent. They don't meet a stranger. And they know what to do to develop young men, because the Prairie View A&M head football coaching job is a developmental head football coaching job, right? When you think about when Dr. Henry Frazier III was there, the 3 things he did best was those 3 things I just laid out. Never met a stranger, engulfed himself in the state of Texas to understand the dynamics, and developed young men. That's how you get KJ Black. That's how you get and that's how he becomes the national coach of the year. Is because he did those 3 things. You cannot take that approach with that Prairie View A&M head football coaching job and think that you're going to go get a traditional SWAC style coach or even MEAC style coach, right? Where kind of meek and mild and don't really want to talk, or just want to focus on the X's and O's. I don't really want to go to the booster meetings. Don't want to go see the alumni. Don't want to get on the plane to go to LA or Georgia or New York or wherever alums are to be able to get the funds in. And clearly you have the resources and facilities that gives you a competitive advantage. That stadium and those facilities are a competitive advantage if used correctly. And you're going to have somebody that's creative that understands that. And so what I hope, if I had the opportunity, if I was still in the coaching ranks, which at some point I will get back into coaching, but if I was in the coaching ranks and I was looking for a head coaching job and the ADs reached out and I interviewed and all of that good stuff, and I had all of these coaching jobs, coaching vacancies on the table to pick from, I would choose the Prairie View A&M head football coaching job.
I would too. And I said that at the top of the show. And money is the reason. It's just so many funds in money and region, resource and region. It's the 2 R's, right? Yeah. So I appreciate you. This is always insightful. I love, if there's anything, if you're here at the end of the show, thank you, first off and foremost. Rewind a couple of minutes and listen to the breakdown about the difference between Valley and Delaware State. Hands down, my favorite part of this whole thing. I thought that was incredible. So I want to thank you for coming on, but specifically for that part right there.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
That part right there. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.